Sir Tom Jones has sold more than 100 million records over his remarkable 6-decade career. In his new memoir, Over the Top and Back, Jones recounts how he rose from his roots in the coal fields of Wales.
When Tom Jones burst onto the music scene in the 60s, it caused a frenzy, reminiscent of, well, Beatlemania.
Yeah, I think so. There's certain songs that I think I sound better singing them now than I did 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
He used to sing for $25 a night. Now he's worth $300 million and lives like a king. Tom Jones isn't just a singer anymore. He's filthy rich.
Now you're doing more and more country music, right?
Yeah, at the moment, yes. Because, the songs that have been sent my way lately, the better songs, I feel, have been country songs.
At 83, he owns mansions worth millions, drives Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, and once sold his house to Nicolas Cage for $6.4 million. Even when his career crashed in the 70s, he was still living in luxury while most stars went broke. And the craziest part, he's still making money.
When you do 2 shows a night for a month straight, no days off, it starts to affect your voice.
This is the jaw-dropping story of how a coal miner's son became one of the wealthiest singers alive. Tom Jones was born in a small Welsh town in 1940. His father worked in the coal mines, and his mother stayed at home. When Tom was 12, he got very sick with tuberculosis. He had to stay in bed for almost 2 years. It was a lonely and scary time, but something important happened during those quiet days. With little else to do, Tom listened to music and drew pictures. He later said that being stuck inside made him fall in love with music even more. It didn't break him. It made him stronger. That long illness planted the first seeds of the singer he would become. As a teenager, Tom fell in love with a local girl named Linda. Their relationship paused when he got sick, but they picked up where they left off once he recovered. By the time he was 16, Tom left school, and at 17, he married Linda after she became pregnant with their son, Mark. Suddenly, Tom was a husband and a father. To support his new family, he took a job at a paper mill, working long nights. But even with the pressure of adult life, he couldn't ignore his growing passion for music. In time, that passion would win out.
So what a fantastic, superb group of artists, but one of them has to win, and it is the wonderful Tom Jones!
In 1963, everything started to change. A local band called the Senators needed a new singer. Their leader, Vernon Hopkins, knew about Tom and convinced him to join. Dressed in black leather, Tom took the stage and left crowds stunned. He had a big voice and even bigger energy. Before shows, he often drank over 10 pints of beer, but when he sang, the room lit up. The band played all over South Wales and gained a strong local following. One night, when they opened for a bigger act, Tom's performance was so powerful that the headliners let him do another set. But outside of Wales, no one knew who he was. That had to change. The band got a break when their demo reached a London producer named Joe Meek. He invited them to his studio, which turned out to be a cramped flat above a leather shop. Meek was known for his odd behavior, and although he let them record 5 songs, he didn't seem to know how to handle Tom's booming voice. Worse, he never gave them copies of the recordings and made Tom feel uneasy with an offhand comment. They returned home with nothing solid. The session had gone nowhere. Not long after, another opportunity came along. A man named Gordon Mills saw Tom perform and was blown away. Mills had grown up in Wales but now worked in London, writing songs and managing talent. He made a deal with Tom's managers and took over. He changed everything, starting with Tom's name. Inspired by the popular movie, he rebranded him as Tom Jones. He also renamed the band and got Tom a recording deal with Decca. The first single didn't go anywhere. It seemed like the dream was slipping again.
Here is, from Wales, Tom Jones, and he's magnificent.
But then came It's Not Unusual. Mills helped write it, though at first he didn't think Tom could sell it. He offered it to another singer, Sandy Shaw. But when she heard Tom's demo, she insisted it was his song. Tom believed it too. He told Decca that if they didn't let him release it, he'd quit music and go back to Wales. They gave in, and it worked. The song shot to #1 in the UK in early 1965. Tom Jones had finally arrived. Yet there was still a problem. The BBC wouldn't play it. They thought Tom's image was too suggestive, but that didn't stop the song. A pirate radio station called Radio Caroline, broadcasting from a ship off the coast, played it non-stop. Young listeners loved it, and soon the BBC had no choice but to catch up. Thanks to that rebellious little station, the song became a hit in both the UK and the US. Tom even got to perform it 3 times on The Ed Sullivan Show. That same year, he made another smart move. He recorded 2 movie theme songs that pushed his voice to the limit. One was What's New Pussycat, a song he thought was silly until he realized the writers wanted his voice to make it stand out. The other was Thunderball, the theme for the James Bond film. He held the final note so long that he almost fainted. These songs weren't just hits. They showed the world that Tom could do more than pop. He could be dramatic. He could be larger than life. Then, in 1966, came a moment of real recognition. Tom won the Grammy for Best New Artist. It was a big deal. Many British singers were popular, but not all were respected. Tom was both. That year, while filming in Hollywood, he met Elvis Presley. The two became friends, bonding over music and showmanship. The Grammy didn't just confirm Tom's success, it opened doors to new styles and new audiences. Later that same year, he took a risk on a sad, slow song called Green, Green Grass of Home. At first, people thought it was just a sweet tune about going back to Wales. But it was really a haunting story about a man on death row dreaming of home before execution. It struck a deep chord with listeners. The song became a massive hit, staying at #1 for 7 weeks and topping the charts at Christmas. It reminded people that Tom wasn't just a powerful singer. He could also tell a story. He could break your heart as easily as he could blow the roof off a club.
I love pop star. I love singing that, and it opens me up as well. I do it early in the show, so it really tests your voice, because it's got some range to it.
In 1967, Tom Jones stepped onto a Las Vegas stage for the first time. He was at the Flamingo, and it changed everything. His shirts were suddenly half unbuttoned. His pants got tighter. The crowd got louder. Women began throwing their underwear at him. And just like that, a new image was born. Vegas gave Tom the freedom to turn up the heat, and he leaned into it. From that moment on, he came back to Vegas every year for more than 4 decades. As his shows grew wilder, Tom started recording less and performing more. The stage became his home. His moves, his voice, and his charm were now front and center, and fans couldn't get enough. One night in New York, at the famous Copacabana Club, something unforgettable happened. Women had been handing him napkins to wipe his sweat. But then, one bold woman handed him her underwear. Tom just smiled and said, "You don't catch cold." The next day, the story hit the papers, and soon women were bringing lingerie to shows just to throw at him. What started as a one-time joke became his signature. But it wasn't just nightclubs. In 1968, Tom's star rose even higher when he signed a $9 million deal for his own variety show. It was called This Is Tom Jones, and it was massive. The show aired in both the UK and the US, and it looked like nothing else on TV. Big lights, big band, big guests. The production was so expensive, people couldn't believe it, but the audience loved it. Each week, Tom closed the show with a powerful number, and women would rush the stage. Even with all the glitz, Tom made it feel raw and real. In 1970, the Hollywood world took notice. Tom was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Actor in a musical or comedy TV series. That was rare for a singer, but Tom had that spark. His show blended music, jokes, and big-name guests like Janis Joplin, Ella Fitzgerald, and Stevie Wonder.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time.
It wasn't just about his voice anymore, it was about his presence. And behind the scenes, there was Elvis. The king of rock and roll met Tom in 1965. From then on, they were close. Elvis once walked up to Tom singing his song, "With These Hands." Tom was stunned. They connected over gospel music, and in Vegas, they'd stay up all night singing it together. They vacationed in Hawaii, spent time backstage, and even sang each other's songs. Elvis sang Tom's Delilah, and Tom covered One Night with You. Their friendship was real and deep, built on music and mutual respect. Then, in 1971, Tom released She's a Lady. The song exploded. It hit #2 in America and #1 in other countries. But not everyone loved the lyrics. Even Paul Anka, who wrote it, later said he didn't like it. Still, the world danced to it, and it became one of Tom's biggest hits. Years later, the song made him emotional, especially when he tried to sing it after losing his wife, Linda.
Singer Tom Jones' wife of 59 years, Melinda Rose Woodward, has died after her battle with cancer.
And behind all the lights and cheers, Tom was living a wild life. He admitted he slept with up to 250 women in a single year. That's 5 women a week. He had a dressing room just for meeting female fans. People called him a ladies' man. But through all of it, he stayed married to Linda. They had a silent agreement. She wouldn't ask, and he wouldn't tell. Somehow, it worked. At least for a while. But not all his affairs were short-lived. His relationship with Mary Wilson of the Supremes lasted longer and meant more. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. At the time, interracial relationships were still controversial, especially in America. Their romance crossed a social line and nearly ended his marriage. Linda was deeply hurt. That affair wasn't just another backstage fling, it cut deeper. And then came Marjorie Wallace. She was 19, the reigning Miss World. Tom was 33. They met in his dressing room, and sparks flew. Soon, they were spotted on a beach in Barbados, kissing and holding hands. The media went crazy. Wallace was engaged to race car driver Peter Revson, and the scandal cost her the Miss World crown. Tragedy followed. Revson died in a crash, wearing a locket she gave him. Not long after, Wallace overdosed. She survived, but the whole world saw just how intense the affair had been. Tom later sent her flowers and met her again in Mexico. Even after the breakup, the connection lingered. Through it all, Linda stayed. She had grown up with Tom in a small Welsh town. Their homes were just steps apart. They understood each other in a way fame couldn't touch. She didn't go on tour. She didn't do interviews. She stayed home and let Tom be Tom. When he got caught in the Wallace scandal, she hit him. She yelled, but she didn't leave. When people asked how she could stay, she said, "It's what's for dinner that matters, not what's on the menu." In 1974, Tom Jones made a big move that would change his life. Faced with a crushing 98% tax rate in Britain, He packed his bags and left for Los Angeles.
It's, I can sort of help other singers with the experience that I've had, which is different from what I've ever done.
It wasn't something he wanted to do. He loved his home country, but he felt forced to leave. From then on, he poured his energy into Vegas shows and recording country music for American fans. But in doing so, he turned his back on the rest of the world. Years later, he admitted it was a mistake. "I was digging my own grave," he said, realizing too late that his international career was slipping away. Soon after settling in LA, Jones bought Dean Martin's mansion in Bel Air. The place was massive, 13,000 square feet on prime real estate, and it cost him $500,000. The house became a symbol of his new life in Hollywood. Decades later, that same home would sell for over $6 million to Nicolas Cage, turning out to be a smart investment. But at the time, it also showed how far he'd drifted from his British roots. Before all this, back in 1970, Jones had tried to expand his reach in a different way. He and his manager, Gordon Mills, started MAM Records. At first, it worked brilliantly. They released hits, signed big names, and were riding high in the UK music scene. But by the end of the decade, things weren't so smooth. American labels started taking over, sales began to drop, and cracks formed in Jones and Mills's relationship. Then came a major blow. Gilbert O'Sullivan, one of their biggest acts, sued the label over unpaid royalties. He won, and the court awarded him £7 million. The fallout was huge. MEM Records couldn't recover and was eventually sold. Jones's hopes of running a successful label were over. By the late 1970s, his music career was in serious trouble. Styles were changing fast. Disco was hot, new wave was rising, and Jones's booming voice and Vegas vibe felt outdated. He kept focusing on live shows in the US and country records, but those choices pushed him even further from fans back home. He didn't have a top 10 hit in the UK for over a decade. It was a far cry from his earlier glory days. Looking back, he blamed himself. He admitted he spent too much time performing and not enough time recording new, relevant songs.
Bob to have liked my recording of What Good Am I, because you never know when you sing somebody else's songs, which I've done a lot of, whether the person that wrote it likes it or not. And so I didn't know until I got the invite to do the show. So I thought, well, he must like it.
His momentum stalled, and many thought his time in the spotlight was over. Tom Jones was 47 and already a music legend when he met Catherine Berkery in New York City in October 1987. He was on tour in the US and had been married to his childhood sweetheart Linda for 30 years. One night, at a nightclub, he saw Catherine, a 24-year-old model. He invited her to his concert the next evening. She went. After the show, they had dinner, then spent the night together at the Ritz-Carlton. What happened between them lasted only 3 days, but those 3 days would follow both of them for the rest of their lives. Catherine had no idea he was married. Months later, she found out she was pregnant. On June 27, 1988, she gave birth to a son, Jonathan. That's when everything exploded. Tom denied he was the father. Catherine, unwilling to be dismissed, took him to court. In 1989, she filed a paternity lawsuit in New York. It didn't take long for the media to get involved. The story was too big. Tom Jones, international superstar, accused of fathering a child and walking away. His lawyers didn't hold back. They tried to paint Catherine in the worst possible light, even calling her a prostitute. But the court ordered a DNA test. There was no arguing with science. The results showed a 99.76% chance that Tom Jones was Jonathan's father. Judge Judith Scheindlin years before she became known as Judge Judy, made it official. Tom was the father. He lost the case, but not his pride. He paid what the court told him to, $2,500 a month, plus over $90,000 in additional costs. But emotionally, he stayed away. For the next 20 years, he said nothing about his son. No visits, no birthday cards, no calls, just silence and checks. In 2008, he finally spoke about it, but his words weren't warm. He said, "It wasn't something I had planned. I just fell for it. I just fell for the seduction." That one sentence hit Jonathan like a slap. It made everything worse. Jonathan grew up angry. He bounced from school to school, fighting and rebelling. He once said, "I needed a father figure. I leaned toward older bad guys." Money couldn't fix that kind of pain. A monthly check didn't make up for the empty seat at every school play and birthday party. Tom kept his distance. The court had ordered him to pay for Jonathan's education and health insurance. He did until 1992, when a new deal was made. Tom paid a lump sum, and Catherine released him from further health care payments. When Jonathan turned 18, all the checks stopped, and so did any remaining contact. The scandal faded from the headlines, but for Jonathan, it never really went away. He grew up in the shadow of a famous father who never wanted to know him. And for Tom Jones, no matter how many records he sold or how loud the crowds cheered, there was one part of his life he never sang about. Tom Jones wasn't supposed to come back. By the late 80s, most people thought of him as a relic from another time. But in 1988, something unexpected happened. He teamed up with the British group Art of Noise to cover Prince's Kiss. It wasn't just a cover, it was a total reimagining. The song shot up the UK charts, actually beating the original version there, and made waves in Europe and the US. The music video was just as bold, with Jones dressed in black, dancing against wild, colorful backgrounds. The twist at the end? He took off his sunglasses to reveal it was really him. That performance introduced Tom Jones to a whole new generation, and he pulled it off with charm, wit, and zero irony. That moment set the stage for an even bigger comeback. In 1999, he released Reload, an album packed with duets alongside current stars like Robbie Williams, The Cardigans, and Stereophonics. Every track was a surprise. It felt fresh, energetic, and totally unforced. These weren't throwaway collaborations. Each song was crafted in the featured artist's usual style, recorded in their studios, and shaped by their own producers. Reload turned out to be the biggest album of Jones's entire career. It sold millions and proved he could still evolve without losing what made him special in the first place. One track from Reload stood out more than the rest: Sex Bomb. It was cheeky, funky, and completely unapologetic. Moose T, the German DJ behind the track, had written it with Tom in mind, calling him the original sex bomb. And suddenly, at 59, Tom Jones was a club hit. The song dominated charts across Europe, especially in France and Switzerland, and the radio remix filled dance floors all over the continent. Whether it was the soul-infused album version or the disco-heavy remix, Sex Bomb reminded everyone that Tom Jones still had it, and always had. All this led to one of the most meaningful moments in his life.
He's the coal miner's son who hit pay dirt with his great voice, the original hip-swiveling smoothie from the swinging 60s. Now he's pushing 70, but Tom Jones is still a sex bomb and hard at it.
In 2006, he stood in Buckingham Palace, being knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. The boy from a Welsh mining town had come a long way. Known to the world as Tom Jones, but knighted under his birth name, Thomas Woodward, he called it the highest honor he could imagine. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about legacy. He'd met the Queen several times over the years and always spoke of her with deep admiration. That day, with his family watching, he said it felt like everything had come full circle. But as his public life reached new heights, his private life began to crack. In the early 2000s, he lost both of his parents just 2 weeks apart. His father had long struggled with lung problems from working in the mines, and his mother followed soon after. Even though he'd known the day would come, the reality of losing them hit harder than he expected. It forced him to pause, reflect, and face emotions he'd pushed aside for years. Touring didn't help. It gave him no space to grieve. That period left a scar, one that would change how he looked at life, family, and time. One of the biggest shifts came in his relationship with his son, Mark. When Mark was young, Tom was barely around. He was busy building his career, always on the road, always somewhere else. The distance turned into resentment, and for a long time, they drifted apart. But in a twist no one saw coming, Mark became his manager. What started as a business move slowly mended old wounds. Working side by side gave them a chance to rebuild. They found understanding where there had once been silence, and through the years, their bond grew stronger. But nothing compared to what came next. In 2016, Tom lost the love of his life. His wife, Linda, whom he'd known since childhood, died after a short but intense fight with cancer. They'd been married for 59 years. He first fell in love with her when he was 12, watching her walk past his window while he recovered from tuberculosis. That ache he felt back then never left. After her diagnosis, he canceled everything, every tour, every appearance, to be with her. In their final days together, he told her he wasn't sure he could ever sing again. She told him he had to. "You can't fall with me," she said. "I have to leave, but you don't have to." Those words stayed with him.
It's funny enough, he said, "What drugs do you use to keep sane? What do you take to keep sane?" And I said, I like to drink.
After she passed, he sold their house in Los Angeles and moved back to London. He said there was no more love left for him in the world. Despite all the affairs, all the headlines, all the rumors, there had only ever been one woman for him, Linda. He admitted he had hurt her deeply. He had cheated, often and openly. When she found out about one of his affairs, she punched him in the face. He didn't fight back. He knew he deserved it. But she stayed. Through everything, she stayed. And after she was gone, he said he would never love again. Not like that. Then, in 2021, something incredible happened. At 80 years old, he released Surrounded by Time, a bold, emotional, deeply personal album. It went straight to #1 in the UK, making him the oldest male artist to ever top the chart with new material. He beat records, beat expectations, and once again reminded the world that Tom Jones is not a man who fades quietly. He took all the grief, all the memories, all the years, and turned them into something powerful. He called the response unbelievable, and said he was just grateful to still be making music that mattered. Tom Jones has never really gone out of style.
My agent is always saying, are you doing the voice? What are we doing? And they always leave it the last minute. They always did, every year. And then all of a sudden, we penciled it in, thinking that...
His voice, his presence, and his timing have kept him relevant for over 6 decades. And that's not just a compliment. It's a big reason why he's worth around $300 million today. Songs like It's Not Unusual and Delilah weren't just hits back in the day. They've kept earning through radio, streaming, and licensing deals. They never stopped paying him. In the 90s, when many artists from his era faded away, Tom flipped the script. He dropped Reload, an album full of duets with younger stars like Robbie Williams and Portishead. It wasn't a nostalgia act, it was a chart-topping comeback that sold over 4 million copies worldwide. Suddenly, Tom Jones wasn't just a legend from the 60s. He was current again. But it wasn't just the music. Tom made smart choices outside the studio, too. He invested in real estate, he did major residencies in Las Vegas, and he joined The Voice UK as a coach, introducing himself to a whole new generation. These moves weren't just about money, they were about staying in the game. One of his boldest decisions came in 1974, when he left the UK to avoid its crushing 98% income tax rate. He moved to Los Angeles, where he started buying up property. That move paid off big. In 1976, he bought a Tudor-style mansion in Bel Air for $500,000. It used to belong to Dean Martin. It had sprawling gardens, a pool, and an incredible view of the city. Tom lived there for nearly 20 years. By 1998, he sold it to Nicolas Cage for $6.4 million. That sale marked the end of his Hollywood chapter. That same year, he bought another house in the Hollywood Hills. 5 bedrooms, bold leopard print interiors, and a peaceful garden. His wife Linda designed it, and it showed their shared love for drama and comfort. But when Linda passed in 2016, everything changed. She had one last wish. She wanted Tom to move back to the UK. So he did. He downsized into a quiet, elegant apartment in London. Not flashy, but tasteful. He also kept a green farmhouse in Wales, staying connected to where he came from. Tom's taste for quality didn't stop at homes. He's a car guy, too. British cars, to be exact. His Bentley Continental GTC is all-class, blending raw power with hand-stitched interiors. And then there's his Rolls-Royce Phantom 6, which looks more like a moving piece of art than a car. With a 6.75-liter V8 and polished wood veneers inside, it's everything you'd expect from someone with his style. He's also held on to classics like the Jaguar Mark I, a nod to another era.